There are a lot of myths flying around about insurance, and one of the big ones I hear regularly are the big rich insurance companies have lots of money and so they're monsters. Insurance companies, I don't feel bad making a claim because they have so much money. I don't feel bad making a false claim because they have so much money. So I'd like to address that today, and I think in order to address this, we first need to have a little bit of understanding of the history of insurance. And insurance is one of the oldest professions in the world. And it dates back to ancient Babylon is where insurance first started. And then it went on to England, and in 1660, Lloyd's of London was formed, and it really was a coffee shop where they would come in and say, we have a shipment heading out, does anyone want to take a piece of it? And if the shipment made it to the edge, we got to keep the money, and if it didn't, we paid the claim. And the very first official insurance company was started in London in 1680 after the Great London Fires. There was a home insurance program started way back then. In 1760, it moved to North America, and Benjamin Franklin actually started the very first insurance company in North America. And the history of insurance is based on the many looking after the few. So what traditionally happened was the villagers would put a whole bunch of money into the pot, everyone would contribute, and then if one of the villagers lost their home, the insurance company or the village would build them a new home. And that went on for quite a while, and then along comes entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs enter all sorts of things. And so an entrepreneur come along and said, hey, why don't you let me manage that pot of money? And if you let me manage that pot of money, I'd like to keep all the profit I make on that pot of money. And I'm allowed to invest it, so if I invest that pot, I get to keep the money. In return, I'll make sure the pot is always full and there's always money there to pay the claims. And that's kind of the basis of insurance today. The pot of money looks after the many. So we all contribute to this pot, and the insurance companies invest the money, and they get returns from making good decisions on who they insure and on their investment income. But what's really important to know is that pot of money, nowadays it's called the reserves, that's our money. That's the policyholders' money. So when you see the insurance companies are rich and they have millions and millions of dollars, that's not their money. Their money is only what they make on investing that money and on doing a good job and making sure that they don't write a lot of bad business. And what happens is when that pot starts to drop, the reserves drop, all throughout the world now, insurance companies are federally regulated. So if the pot drops, it has to be filled up to a minimum level. And the government says all insurance companies have to have this much cash on hand or this much money available to them. So when we have something like the forest fires that wiped out Fort Mac and it causes a huge loss, the pot drops really quickly. So that at that point, insurance companies have no choice but raise their premiums to fill that pot quickly. So every time you hear someone who's having a claim and you hear a buddy going, hey, I just ripped off the insurance company. They didn't rip off the insurance company, they ripped off you. And every time someone puts in a claim, it lowers that pot. And when that pot gets too low, then we all have to dig into our pockets and refill it. So it's so important that everybody is responsible and protects that pot. And these myths about insurance companies having millions of dollars and ripping people off, that is not true. Insurance companies are only making money off the investment incomes and the profit they make from writing good business. And if you look at insurance companies' loss ratios, most insurance companies are working around 96 to 98% loss ratio. So that means for every dollar they bring in, they're spending 98 cents. So you can see that this is not a very profitable business. It's just a steady business. And it's so important that we all protect that pot of money.